You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Welcome to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign. If you love old movies, Hollywood history, or the golden age of filmmaking, you've come to the right place. This is the podcast that talks about amazing stories of Tinseltown from another era and fascinating conversations with writer-producer Steve Cubine and actress-writer Nan McNamara.
So, Steve, did Ava Gardner and Howard Hughes have a good relationship?
Well, they did until he dislocated her jaw.
What?
Well, don't worry. She hit him back with an ashtray.
From Beneath the Hollywood Sign is the gin joint for you.
Recorded in Chicago, Illinois, with your hosts, Ken, Matt, Neal, and Jeff. This is Triviality. The cream of the crop!
Hello and welcome to Triviality, the game where lack of seriousness meets a little bit of knowledge. My name is Neal, and this is the final episode of our Star Trek Trivia Tournament. We've had two great episodes that you can go back and listen to the last 2 weeks. We've had wonderful competitors, even better questions, and we're very, very excited for this final episode with our last three competitors. Before we get to them, Jeff, you are here with me once again. How are you feeling after 2 weeks of intense Star Trek trivia?
Feel pretty good. I came into this thinking that I was a red shirt, but I think I've been spared. So I feel like I've gotten a couple of these right. Yes, the recurring character, red shirt. But no, it's been a great tournament. Thanks again to Matt. These questions have been great. I'm really glad that we got a chance to take another swing at it.
Yes, speaking of Matt, who is here, he wrote all the questions for this trivia tournament, and we're super appreciative of that and for his time and effort in this. Matt, how are you feeling with all the questions and how they've been received?
I've been pretty impressed with how everybody's done so far. I was a little scared that it was going to be a repeat of the first try where it was just kind of a lot of dead air. But no, it's been great. We've had really smart contestants, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they do in the last game.
Well, speaking of those contestants, we're going to come back to them right now. But right before I do that, just one more huge thank you to all of our Patreon supporters for making these tournaments possible. If you'd like to join all of the supporters and get all that extra content, you can go to patreon.com/Triviality Podcast. And we very much appreciate all that support. Our final three competitors are going to be Andrew, who had 12 points in game one, Candice, who also had 12 points in game two, and our wild card player today is going to be Chaz with 9 points. So let's start with Andrew. This is a question I'm going to ask all of you. How do you feel in the final here? And if there was a newbie who had never seen any Star Trek, what episode would you recommend to them to sort of get them into the world of any different series?
So first, I feel good. You know, at the very least, we're going to have some fun. Chaz was a great competitor in the last game, and I didn't get to hear yet because of the time machine aspect of this, how Candice did. But it sounds like 12 out of 15 is a fantastic score, so I think this is going to be a great final. To the question of what's the best episode to start with, I'm thinking let's go original series because you want to pick one from something. And I think the Tholian Web is a good one to get a newbie into because it introduces a bunch of the characters, the sci-fi setting, the dynamic between the characters, and a little bit of comedy in the right places.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to write that down. Let's go to Candice. You were victorious in game two. Same questions to you.
It's fun to be on here. It's not something I usually do. And I would say one of the episodes that I would recommend people who haven't watched Star Trek watch is the Next Generation episode Ethics, which is probably an unusual choice, but I really enjoy the morality play of it. This is just one of my favorite episodes.
All right.
So, Candice, that's one I watched as a kid and did not get at all, and we watched it as an adult and thought it was fantastic.
Chaz, you are the wild card participant. You had 9 points in game one, which secured you a spot here. And you did a great job in game one. So you are facing some stiff competition. So how do you feel, and what is your recommendation?
Yeah, basically, I'm just hoping I don't embarrass myself. I got really tough competition. I already saw how hard some of these questions are. So we're gonna go for not embarrassing myself, and I'll be happy with that. So we already did TOS. We did Next Gen. I decided I would go for DS9. If I was going to recommend, there's actually two. The first is the two-part episode that starts Deep Space Nine, The Emissary, is fantastic. And then there's a later season episode called The Visitor, which is sort of told looking back retrospectively, that is really fantastic, and it's a great way to get into the show, I think.
Bring your tissue box for that one.
Bring a hanky.
Yeah, bring a hanky. It's good, though.
I love that to get into Star Trek, especially because I'm going to watch all of these recommendations, but to get into Star Trek, I'm already going to be crying from the jump. Matt, and before we get started, what about you?
Well, those are some actually pretty unexpected answers, and I am pleasantly surprised by all of them, because for the reasons that each of the competitors said, that they are really excellent gateways to get into it. However, I chose one that's a little bit more recent, and this actually brought back an original series villain from the Discovery. This was Harry Mudd, who was played by Rainn Wilson. And he was actually in a great time travel trope sci-fi episode of Discovery, and it was called Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. And it's one of those that is one of the rare standalone episodes of Discovery where you didn't really have to know what came before or after. And it was great. I mean, Rainn Wilson's just he's so deliciously good as Harry Mudd, and tortures and torments the crew, and it's great. I love it, and it's a fun way to get into it.
That sounds like a great episode. And speaking of magic to make the sanest man go mad, it sounds like every time Jeff talks to me about magic, and I go a little bit mad, but I am actually very intrigued, because the way Jeff talks about it, it's always very interesting. So, Jeff, we have some episodes it looks like we're going to have to watch.
I'll throw my head in for one more recommendation for you, Neal.
Oh, you got one?
Yeah, I've got just a lighthearted classic one. It's not too serious, but The Trouble with Tribbles from the original series, that's just a classic. I think you can't go wrong with something like that. And like I said, fun, lighthearted. You don't need to know really much about the show. So,
of course, if you watch that one, then you have to watch the sequel, which is Trials and Tribulations from Deep Space Nine, where the Deep Space Nine crew actually transports back into the original series, and they do some kind of Forrest Gump dissolves in between the crews, and it's really great.
That's really cool. All right. Well, we have all those recommendations. If you haven't seen Star Trek in any form, definitely check all of those out. So thank you, everyone, for the recommendations. Matt, I think we're ready here. This is going to be a pretty exciting final. Great competition, great questions. Feel free to take it away.
All right. Well, as Q said, when the Enterprise D was about to face the Borg, the hall is rented and the orchestra is engaged. Let's see if you know how to dance. This is question number 1 of our final. Simply, what was Lieutenant Uhura's first name?
Locked in.
Okay, let's start with Andrew.
I think it was non-canon until the 2009 movie when Spock whispered it into Nyota Uhura's ear, but I believe it's Nyota.
All right, Candice?
Nyota.
And Chaz?
Nyota. It was non-canon up till that point.
Yep. But as I said, 2009 J.J. Abrams movies count because they're in the canon, even if it's in a different timeline universe, whatever. But yes, Nyota is what we're looking for. Points all around. Nice job.
Great start.
All right. Question number 2. What was Dr. Beverly Crusher's maiden name?
Okay, let's go to Andrew.
So now in my head, Ken, I only just came up with this now, but I think it fits that she's a descendant of the Three Stooges. Her maiden name was Howard, much like Moe and Curly.
And Candice?
Anne.
And Chaz?
I didn't know, so I just figured that, she was a descendant of another famous Beverly. She was Beverly D'Angelo.
Yeah, points going to Andrew for this one. This is Howard. Her last name was Howard. Her maiden name was Howard, rather. All right, moving on to question number 3. What recurring Next Generation guest star was originally slated to serve as Deep Space Nine's first officer? I will accept either the actor or the character name.
I'll lock in with a guess.
I will too.
All right, let's start with Andrew.
It was Ro Laren who declined. Michelle Forbes, the actor, declined the opportunity, and I don't know if we're all better for it because Kira's great, but she kept it in Ro Laren.
All right, and Candice?
O'Brien.
And Chaz.
Yeah, I knew I'd read it, and as soon as he said it, I knew it. But I also locked in with Miles Edward O'Brien.
Yeah, Miles was always scheduled to be the chief engineer on Deep Space Nine, and Michelle Forbes as Ro Laren was going to be in the slot right behind Avery Brooks, which kind of would have been kind of an interesting dynamic. She's a little bit not cantankerous, just strong-willed in a different way than Kira. Maybe a little less feisty, a little more passive-aggressive.
She's also about 6 inches taller. So I really
that too. Nana Visitor is not a very tall person. Yeah, that'd have been neat. All right. So moving on to question number 4. The actors that portrayed Tom Paris and Harry Kim have recently begun their own Voyager rewatch podcast called The Delta Flyers. Please name these actors.
Tap.
Chaz is tapping on that one.
I'm going to tap out.
Candice is tapping as well. Andrew, looks like you are last one. What is your answer?
Well, it's amazing because in between we were recording these episodes, an ad for the Delta Flyers popped up on my Facebook feed. It was an interview with the actors Robert Duncan McNeil and Garrett Wang, and they sure had some things to say about Voyager. I'd find it and read it.
Yeah, and Andrew's got it. Robert Duncan McNeil and Garrett Wang. Yep, those are the Delta Flyers. Nice job. Okay, moving on to question number 5. How many wives does Dr. Phlox have?
Locked.
I'll lock.
I'll lock with a guess.
Okay, let's start with Andrew.
I believe that the Denobulans have 3 wives per husband and 3 husbands per wife. So forgetting about all the intermixed complexity, he has 3 wives.
And Candice?
5.
And Chaz?
I also have 3. I wish I could remember how many children he has because it's a ridiculous number.
Yep, Andrew and Chaz have got it. It's 3 wives. That's about a third of the way through. So, Jeff, can we get a score update?
Absolutely can. We've got Candice with 1, Chaz with 2, and Andrew 5 for 5.
All right. Here we go with question number 6. What was the name of the composer that wrote the score for the 2009 J.J. Abrams film Star Trek?
I will lock in.
I'll lock in.
I'm a film score nerd. I had to get at least one film score question in here.
You could let me sit on this one for about 100 years, and I would not be able to come up with that name. So it's not going to happen.
All right, not a problem. Let's go to Candice.
Hans Zimmer.
And Andrew.
It's Michael Giacchino.
And Andrew, once again, Michael Giacchino is correct. Yep.
Is he the one who did The Incredibles, Neil?
Yes.
He is.
Yes. Yeah. Shout out to my friend Justin Shady, who I write scripts with. He's actually good friends with Michael, so he says he's a great guy.
Tell him that he does great stuff, and his score placeholder pun names are terrible.
I will.
If I'm not much mistaken, he also did the score for Rogue One.
That sounds right.
Yeah. He's sort of. I guess you could call him sort of the John Williams protege. I would think a little bit. So.
Yeah.
He does great stuff. Really love him.
All right. Moving on to question 7, also music related in a different way. Captain Picard's ancient flute was a gift from a long dead settlement on what planet?
I'll lock in.
I'll lock in too.
I'll lock in.
All right, let's start with Chaz on this one.
So they were the Resicans. I remember that, but I think it must have been Resica, so that's what I'm going to say.
All right, Candice?
I used the same logic. I knew it was a Resican flute, so I was guessing Resica as well.
All right, and Andrew?
I think Resica was the name of the town, and the name of the planet was Catan, because I remember slashing a sword around or something like that when I saw it. So my answer was Catan.
Yeah, no, I don't know if anybody caught the very sly clue of the settlement, as in the settlers of Catan. It is Catan that we're looking for.
Oh.
All right, moving on to question number 8. What personal item did Philippa Georgiou leave in her will for Michael Burnham?
Locked in.
I'll lock in.
I'll lock in with a guess.
All right, we'll start with Chaz again.
She left her family telescope.
And Candice?
Her communicator.
And Andrew?
That was a telescope.
It was indeed her optical telescope. Yep, nice job. Okay, here comes question number 9. On Star Trek Picard, how many different emergency holograms have been depicted thus far aboard La Sirena?
I'll lock in with a guess.
I'll lock in.
So I'm trying to figure out in my head if this is a trick question, because really there's only the one guy. I mean, it's one hologram repeated a whole bunch of times. But if it's not that, I'm going to be stabbing kind of blindly in the dark. So I'm going to say 1.
All right. And Candice?
I'm guessing 5.
Andrew, what was your...
So I was trying to remember. I was trying to get the count based on the accents because each one had a different accent. And what I came up with was English, American, Irish, Scottish, and Spanish. So I came up with 5.
Yep, that is correct. It is 5. They all did have the appearance of Captain Rios, but they all had distinct, different personalities. And that episode towards the end of the run, with where they have to interrogate them all at the same time, is fantastic. I love that. And question number 10. What was the name of the ship that Zephram Cochrane used to achieve warp speed for the first time in human history?
Locked in.
Locked in.
I'm going to sit this one out.
All right, Chaz.
So if I'm remembering correctly, that is the Phoenix.
All right. Candice is sitting this one out. What'd you say, Andrew?
I also said Phoenix.
And Captain Picard remarked that he had seen it hundreds of times in the Smithsonian, but he was never able to touch it. It was indeed the Phoenix.
Does it feel more real this way?
Yeah, Troy walks in on Data and Picard feeling up the Phoenix and says, "Would you three like to be alone?"
You can't say they weren't gentle.
Looks like we're 2/3 of the way through this final, and with a score update. Candice with 2 points, Chaz with 4, and Andrew batting perfect with 10.
All right. Here we go for the home stretch. Number 11. What infamous Starfleet Academy simulation did James Kirk ultimately defeat on his 3rd attempt by reprogramming the no-win scenario?
Locked in.
I'm locked in.
Locking in?
Okay, let's start with Candice.
Kobayashi Maru.
And Chaz.
The Kobayashi Maru.
And Andrew.
I personally love that today we can all describe splatteringly awful failure as Kobayashi Maru.
It's one of those that has kind of worked its way into the lexicon. Yeah, it's Kobayashi Maru. Nice job, everybody. Moving on to question number 12. A little bit more of a deep dive on this one. What was the working title of the second live-action Star Trek series that was planned to be released in 1978?
I'll lock in.
I'm locking with a guess.
I was literally just reading about this because I had no idea it existed until yesterday. And it's Star Trek something. It's Star Trek 2. I'm missing a word in there. Okay. I think I'm going to say Star Trek Phase 2.
Okay. Chaz in with Star Trek Phase 2. Candice?
I said Starfleet Academy, which I know is wrong, but I remember reading about a proposed series early on that was about cadets. So,
all right, Candice with Starfleet Academy, and Andrew.
I also had Star Trek Phase 2, but not Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, there was a Starfleet Academy show that had been in talks for several decades through different incarnations, and different showrunners gave it different treatments, but they never could quite nail it down. Actually, yeah, Andrew and Chaz both got it. It's Star Trek Phase 2. They used several elements in both the motion picture, which released the year right after that. They brought back some of the actors. Persis Kambata came back as Lieutenant Ilea, and I think there was a couple others, but the Next Generation also used some of the scripts that were discarded from Phase 2. They actually had produced 10 different scripts, and they ended up using one of them in Season 2 was Deanna Troi. She was it was one called The Child, where she was impregnated by an alien who wanted to see what it was like to be born as a humanoid. And that was one of them.
Oh,
yep.
No wonder it failed.
Yeah, yeah, that was a Phase 2 leftover that they got to throw in there. Moving on to question number 13. How many chocolate sundaes did Q order during his exile as a human being aboard the Enterprise D? And I will accept answers within 2. So plus or minus 2 for this one.
I'm locked in.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Looks like everyone's locked in on that one fairly quickly. Let's start with Candice.
I think it was 12.
Okay. And Chaz?
I wrote down 14. I don't know why.
And Andrew?
I feel like it was a 1 syllable but big. I put down 10.
All right. Candice is getting credit, but Andrew nailed it. It was 10 chocolate sundaes because Data had given him the advice, when I see Counselor Troy in a bad mood, she orders a chocolate sundae and it makes her feel better. And so he orders 10 chocolate sundaes because he's in a very bad mood.
It's always a good cure for a bad mood, I think.
Here's the last couple of questions. Number 14. What engineer uttered this unforgettable line? Get the cheese to sick bay.
All right, let's start with Candice.
Was it Scotty?
Chaz?
So I'm pretty sure that these are referring to the neural gel packs on Voyager, and the answer is B'Elanna Torres.
Andrew?
I was also pretty sure it was that neural gel pack weirdo episode from early Voyager, and the only engineer I could think of who would fit the bill for that was B'Elanna Torres.
Yep. Yes, indeed. And bioneural gel packs were growing something unsavory on top of it, and they couldn't really identify it. So she said, get the cheese to sickbay. It was B'Elanna Torres. Nice work. All right. And our final question, number 15. What was the name of Dr. Bashir's teddy bear?
All right. Candice, what do you got?
Ben.
Chaz?
I can see the episode in my head because they're Nog and Jake are running around doing favors for people, trying to, I don't know, remember if it's the baseball card episode or not, but they're running around doing favors for people, and I cannot think of what the name of the bear is, so I put Buddy.
Okay, and Andrew?
It was the baseball card episode because Julian had lost his teddy bear to his ex-girlfriend, so he insisted the one thing that would make him feel better was Kukulaka.
And the teddy bear's name was Kukulaka. Nice work.
I believe that brings us to the end of this final episode after 3 weeks. Jeff, I'm going to throw it to you for our final standings.
All right. So after 15 questions, 3 weeks, and a bunch of excellent questions from Matt, tough competition, and it comes down to this. With 4 correct in the final is Candice. With 7 correct in the final is Chaz. And unbelievably, 15 of 15 really knows his stuff. We got to give credit to Andrew.
Congratulations.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you all. Thanks, Matt. Great set of questions.
Holy cow. That was impressive.
That was quite a feat.
My deep nerdery. If I get one allowance for deep nerdery in public, it's going to be on this. So,
well, that's good. That's good that you have that knowledge, and we appreciate you joining us today. So let's start with you, Andrew. Any last words? Anywhere you want people to come check you out?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't done any kind of active podcast stuff in a while, or am I publishing just because I've been busy with work and isolation and everything. So if we're going to be having a shout out for anything, usually if I'm asking people to give money to places, oftentimes I'll put the word towards cancer research because it's been a thing that's been important to my friends and my family for some time now. I don't know if they have enough money right now compared to all the other things that could use some attention these days, but I know that there are probably a lot of local food banks and so forth that could use your attention right now with unemployment being what it is. So I guess if I'm going to pitch anything, it's please give to your local food bank.
Wonderful. Thank you for saying that. We echo that statement. Chaz, any last words from you? We appreciate you being a part of this.
This is super fun, guys. Always a pleasure to be here. And anything I could say would pale in comparison. So go support your local food bank. I think that's a pretty good message.
We agree. And Candice, it was so nice having you back. You performed valiantly in the last 2 episodes, and we enjoyed your company. Any last words from you?
Thank you. No, just thanks for having me on.
Of course. You're welcome anytime in any format. Same goes for everyone else. Matt, wonderful questions. Thank you so much for putting all these together. We said it a few times, maybe not at the top, but we tried something similar a while back. It didn't work out, but this was beyond our expectation. We had so much fun. What else would you like to say, Matt? Because we appreciate your help.
Just thanks for giving me another shot at this. I had a great time writing the questions, and I love the show, and I'm glad to be a part of it. We're only going to get to Star Trek's future by acting like it right now, so celebrate the diversity around you. Love your fellow human beings. Life's too short to go through it with hatred in your heart.
Great final words there, Jeff. It looks like we have a bunch of episodes that we're going to have to check out, especially me. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, thanks again to all of our competitors. Really wonderful tournament here. Thanks again to Matt. Absolutely incredible amount of work goes into these when we have to do them. So we're very appreciative for all you've done to get this together. So thank you.
And thank you one more time to all of our patrons for supporting the show, helping us do episodes like this. If you'd like to join them, go to patreon.com/Triviality Podcast. On behalf of Andrew, Chaz, John, JP, Candice, Aaron, Jeff, and our guest host for this tournament, Matt, my name is Neal, and that was Triviality.